Daf Kuf Yud Gimel Amud Beis. We'll begin Daf Kuf Yud Gimel Amud Aleph right at the bottom of the Amud. We learned previously that Rabbi Yochanan said that one of the people that Kodesh Baruch Hu loves is a ravak. If he's a bachelor, a ravak hadar b'krach ve'ena chayta. He lives in the big city, and they're prevalent to have snos, and he's not, and he restrains, and he's not chayta. That's one of the people that Kodesh Baruch Hu is oyev because he's oimed ben Yisrael. Rav Safra ravak hadar b'krach hava. Rav Safra was a bachelor, lived in a big city. Tana made the Rav of Rav Safra, so they taught the Bryce in front of them that said that the Ravak, that Dar Bekrach, is one of the people that the Kodesh Baruch Hu loves. So they taught a Bryce that taught over this memra. Upon of the Rav Safra, so his face lit up. He was happy because he felt that therefore he's one of the people that the Kodesh Baruch Hu loves. Amar Rav said, "Love kegoin ma." The Bryce is not referring to somebody like you; it's referring to somebody that has a greater nesoyin. Ela kegoin Rav Chanina Rav Aisha. It's referring to people like them. Dava ushkavei beretz Yisrael. They were shoemakers in Eretz Yisrael. V'havei Yosef b'shuka designer. And where they fixed their shoes was in the shuk, in the marketplace where there were zaynas. V'avdlu masana l'zaynas, and they made shoes for the zaynas. Va'aylahu, and the zaynas would come into the shop, and ino mistakle bahu, and the zaynas would look at them. V'ino loy madlan einay l'istakalu bahu, but they, Rav Chanina and Rav Aisha, would not raise their eyes to look at them. Umamsayu hachi. And therefore, the Zionists had a much respect and covet for them. They had a great respect for them. And therefore, when they wanted to make a shvua, they would make a shvua in the following way. B'chayei Rabban Kadisha d'Bahar Yisrael. By the lies, they swear by the lies of the holy rabbis of Eretz Yisrael, meaning referring to Rav Chanina and Rav Aisha. So therefore, the reference is to people that have this great type of nisayon and they're not chayta. That's what it's referring to, that one of the people that Kodesh Baruch Hu loves. Shloisha Kodesh Baruch Hu oyevan. Three group of people that the Kodesh Baruch Hu is oyevan, he loves them. Mishena kais, he doesn't get angry. Umishena mishtake, he doesn't get drunk. Umishena mamin al midaisa. And one who is not insistent on what's coming to him. A person meaning he is forgiving, he doesn't bear a grudge. But conversely, there are three that Kodesh Baruch Hu hates them. If a person is insincere, he talks one way in his mouth, he thinks another way in his heart, he feels another way in his heart. And a person who could testify on behalf of his chaver, his friend, and he doesn't. He withholds the testimony, and therefore he doesn't benefit his friend. And conversely, if a person who sees something wrong in his friend, he sees that he is Isaac in a dvara erva, in an avera of erva, and he is made, but he's made alone, without another aid. Now, to be made on a dvara erva, you need to aid him. So, therefore, his edus doesn't accomplish anything. It's not a real testimony, and it's just Maitzi Shemra. All it does is Maitzi Shemra. So, therefore, Kodesh Baruch Hu said, Kiha, like the following Maisa, the Tuvia Chata, a person called Tuvia, he did an Avera. Va'asa Zigud Chodei, va'asa Beikam the Rapapa, and Zigud came and testified against him in front of Rapapa. Not the Zigud. Rav Papa gave Malkas not to Tuvia, but to Zigud. Amrle, Zigud said to Rav Papa, Tuvia Chatav Zigud Mingad? Tuvia is the one that did the Vera, and he said about himself, and Zigud, he should get the Malkas? Amrle, Rav Papa said to him, yes, because the Chsiv, Lo Yakum Meid Echad B'ish, that you can't accept a testimony of one aid against another man. And at Dvar Erva, you can't accept one aid for a testimony and momentous as well. And you testified by yourself. So therefore, You didn't come to testify for a real edus because you know that edus is only with two. Shemra ba'alma come up pay. All you did was you were moitzi shemra. You gave him a bad reputation. You were just slandering him, and therefore you should get malchus. If you see, however, if a person is doing a dvar erva, even though you can't be made if you don't have another person to be made with you, but you're allowed to hate that type of a person, even though normally it's also to hate a yid, but here you could. Shenemar, where do we see this? The Pasuk says, it says, the Pasuk says, if you see the donkey of a person that you hate, and the donkey is crouching under the burden, so it has a heavy burden, the donkey is crouched down on the ground, so it's a mitzvah to raise him up, to help raise him up. Now the Torah says, if you see the donkey of your enemy, so my saina, what are we referring to over here? So presumably, like the Rashbam says, we're not talking about a person who is Iver Averis. He's listening to mitzvahs, and it's causing this person his enemy. So it therefore must be referring to somebody that he is allowed to hate. So Elam saina nochri, if you're telling me that it's referring to a nochri, V'hatanya, we said saina shamru saina Yisrael, v'lei saina nochri. And so we learned the Bryce, so we're referring to a Yisrael, a Yid, not a Nochri, Elapshita Saina Yisrael. So it must be that it's a Saina, as enemy is a Yid. How can you can't hate him. It's also to hate your brother in your heart. Ella must be, must be that there are witnesses that he was over in Isser, and therefore there were witnesses that in the past he was over in Isser, and therefore it's a Yid, but it's Mutal Saisa. But frankly, Gemara, if that's the case, why is it referred to? Why does the Pasuk say that if you seek Yisera Chamar Soinacha, your enemy? Well, if it's a person who was over Avera and there ate him that he was over in Avera, so it's not your enemy, it's someone that everybody would hate. So everybody would hate him, not just you. So why does it refer to him Dafka as his enemy? It must be that it's referring to this type of a case. That he saw that this person did a dvar aver. Other people didn't see it. So therefore they don't hate him. But he does because he saw the aver. So it's his sinus. So in such a case, you see that it's mutter sanaisam. Rav Nachman, he says even more mitzvah l'sanaisa. He says it's even a mitzvah. Shenemar yiras Hashem sanaisro, because it says that someone at Yerushalayim, what is Yerushalayim? Is someone who hates evil, and this person did the savera, so it's a mitzvah to be sign of the wrong. Amar Vachbre the Ravashi Mao Rabbi. If a person sees another person doing the severe and he's the only one person who sees it, now he can't be made, but can he tell this person, the person who did the Avera, can he tell his Rebbe that he did the Avera so that the Rebbe should hate him? Omar Lei, Ravashi said to him, he says, if the Rebbe will listen to this person saying he'll be accepted as true, then he'll accept it as being truthful, then tell it him. Meaning, if the person, the way the Chofetz Chaim learns, if the Rebbe knows this person never lies, and therefore what he says he'll accept it as truth, and meaning therefore the motive is that the Rebbe should know this about his Talmud and know how to therefore conduct with him and to be sign to him, then tell it over. But if not, but it's then if not, if he doesn't accept it as truth, then it's only Maisi Shemra, then he shouldn't tell it over to him. The three people who their lives are not worth living, meaning their lives are full of tsar and they're agitated all the time. What is that? Those people who have too much rachmanis, they're overly compassionate, or they're very easily angered, or they're anine they're finicky, they're overly finicky, they're overly delicate, meaning that they always get angry and they are always feeling bad for other people or for situations, so they're always feeling bad, or they're always agitated because they're anine das, so they're always agitated and repulsed. So these people, their lives are in constant discomfort. V'amar Yosef Kula Esnobi, he says with his nature, his basic character nature was like that. All of these three characteristics existed by him. Ton Rabbanan, Shleisha, Seinim Zezeh, the three groups that the people hate each other, members of the groups. Ve'elahin, V'klovim, the dogs, V'tanagolim, V'chaborim, and Chaborim. Chaborim were a group of people that descended from Persia. And they were called Chaborim, they were hated Talmidei Chachamim, but they're also Seinim Zezeh. V'yeshayimim Avazoinas, and some say also Zionist. They're also that they hate each other. So all these people hate each other, are considered people who hate each other. And some say even Talmidei Chacham Shebebavel. So what does that mean? Talmidei Chacham Shebebavel hate each other. We understand the other groups because they compete with each other. They compete with each other for meager sustenance in the case of dogs, or for their livelihood, or they compete with each other to solicit. Or the Chaborim, which have an angry, a violent nature, they're inherently wicked, we understand they hate each other. But what does it mean that Talmidei Chacham Shebebavel, they're Talmidei Chacham, what does it mean they hate each other? The Maral explains that what it means is that not be'esem they hate each other, that they deal with each other as if they would be people that hate each other. Meaning, as opposed to the Talmidei Chacham in Eretz Yisrael, where they have discussions with each other. And they do it in a gentle way, in a more of a compassionate way. The Talmidei Chachamim in Bavel, they dispute each other in Divrei Halacha and learning angrily, and it's as if they hate each other because they argue with each other, and there's a riska d'oraisa, and they argue with each other in that type of a manner. Ton Rabbanan Shleisha Ovim Zeh. There's three groups that they love each other. The Gerim and slaves, and Arvim, the crows. So these types of people, the explanation that is given is that they are people that are not Balei, meaning they are more humility. They are either the Gerim or the slaves. They're on the, generally speaking, on the lower rung of society, so they're not filled with gaiva, so they love each other. Or the crows, which are birds that have to look for their food, and they're not very appealing to people, and so therefore they have more of a low nature, more of a humility, and therefore they love each other. Arbain also, and therefore that people can't stomach, they can't tolerate. Elohein, dal geya, someone who's poor, but he's a gaiva, he's a bal gaiva. And a person who's wealthy and he can afford to pay his obligations, and he denies his obligations. And an old person who is menoif, he's engaged in niv. He's an old person already. His taivas are not that strong, and yet nevertheless he engages in niv, in snus. Uparnas miskalet sibur bechinam, and a leader who's the leader of the community, and he imposes himself on the tzibur, and he lords over them without any real reason. So he just exerts himself in a gaivadik way on the community with no real reason. Some say he divorces his wife once and returns it again, and he takes her back. So it's something that a person, it's not an understandable behavior, and it's a reckless and compassionate behavior. But Tanakama does not list this case because sometimes it's justified. Sometimes he divorces her. If he divorces her, he has to pay his ksuva, and then he sees that he can't afford to pay her ksuva, so he takes her back, and therefore he restores it, and he doesn't have to pay the ksuva. Or he has children, and he sees he can't raise the children without her, so he therefore is forced to take her back. There are 5 things that Canaan commanded his children. Evu Zezel, love each other. Ve'evu es hagezel, and love gezel zela. Ve'avas azima, and love znus. V'sinu es adoinechem, hate your masters. Ve'al tedabru emes, don't speak the truth. Meaning that Canaan, they were the kala that Canaan had from Noach. The kala was that Eved Avodim. He's an Eved. So an Eved, in order to, he had commanded them that the way that they could exist and be successful is if they were good to each other, but since they're slaves, they won't be able to accumulate their own legally and properly their own possessions, their own wealth, their own independence. So the way to exist, he told them, is to steal and to love Avera and Znus, because they can't have proper families, etc. They can't have proper parnos and proper independence. Don't speak the truth, because whatever they speak the truth, they will be still on the lower rung of society. They won't be able to get ahead. So he told them to lie and hate your masters, because you'll always be subservient to your masters. Look for ways to plot and connive to try to overpower your master or to steal from your master, because otherwise you'll always be subservient to him. So therefore, hate him so that you'll connive and work against him in order to prosper. Shishat Varam Nemra B'sus, there's 3 things mentioned about a horse. Oivis says nos, it loves nos. Oivis Milchama, it loves the war. Ruach Gasa, it's haughty. Valgaividik, Moises Hashem, it doesn't sleep a lot. Moichel Harbe, it eats a lot. Moitzekima, but it is Moitzekima, it relieves himself only a little bit. V'yesh Haimrim Avivakish Laharik Balav Milchama, that he tries to kill his master in the war. He tries to overpower and kill the master during the wartime. Meaning, so in the horse was something that in those days, in earlier days, it was something that was essential for and was a mainstay of people's existence, that they traveled with them, they went to war with them, etc., to know the nature of the horse in order to deal with it, properly. Shiva menudil m'shamayim, the 7 who are in Cheir min Shamayim. Elohen, these are the ones, Yehudei she'en lo isha, a yid that has no wife. V'sheyesh lo isha v'ein lo bonim, or if he has a wife but no children. Or if he has children but he doesn't raise them for Talmud Torah, he doesn't teach them Torah. He doesn't have tefillin in his head and his arm. Or it sits on his garment. He doesn't have mezuzah on his door. And he withholds his shoes from his feet. He goes barefoot. Going barefoot is disgraceful. That there's a chabur shel mitzvah, that there is a sudas mitzvah, etc., and he does not participate. Tosfos points out that when we say that he doesn't have a wife, he doesn't have children, etc., it's talking in the same context as a person doesn't have tefillin and tzitzis, meaning he has the ability to get tefillin and tzitzis, but he doesn't. He has the ability to get these other things, dvar mitzvah, shoes, but he doesn't. Similarly, he could get a wife, but he doesn't. Or similarly, he's not oisik in Pirivia, and that's why he doesn't have children. Amar Rabba Bar Chana, Amar Rishmal Bar Mas, Amar Rabbi Mishum, Rabbi Yasi Yishutzo. He said that minayin shein shoylam bekaldim. How do you know that we don't consult with stargazers, with astrologers? Nemar says, Tomim tiyem Hashem lekechem. You should be tomim, wholehearted with Hashem. So therefore, don't look at the future and try to determine what the future will be, and just be tomim with Hashem and put your trust in the Rebbeinu Shalom. How do you know if there's a friend that even in one respect he's greater than you, that you have to treat him with respect? The king saw one extra measure of wisdom, of spirit he saw in Daniel, and therefore he appointed him over the whole kingdom. So you see, even though it was in one aspect he was greater than the other two, therefore he appointed him over the kingdom. So you see that the kavod, you have to give him the kavod even if it's greater in one respect. Dovid points out, he says, that's if you see that he has something greater than you. But if he actually taught you, if he's your Rebbe, even ois achas, even one letter, you have to treat him with respect. And the other thing he said was that hayosheves al dam tor asur l'shamish. And he said also that if an isha is yosheves al dam tor, that if she is in her days of dam tor. So the Torah says that if an isha keeps hazriya, so if she gives birth to a zocher, she's made for 7 days, and then she has the next 33 days are yemei tor. Even if she sees dam, it's yemei dam tor, she's not tomei. And there's no issur to have relations. If it's in a keva, it's 14 and 66. Then the 66, yemei tor. Midaraisa, it's mutter to be with his wife, to be mishamish with his wife during the Mei Torah. We're knowing nowadays that it's also that we are not much of that. But midaraisa, it's mutter. Now he said that if an isha she's dam Torah, then if he has relations with her, he's not knowing that there's an issue with her. Then he said that also l'shamish, even after her Yemei Torah has ended, there's for a period of time, there's still an issur of tashmish. Why is that? Because she's not accustomed to separate when she sees dam. So right after the Yemei Torah, she might see dam, and that dam, after the Yemei Torah is dam tumah, she's a nida, and she'll be also to her bala, and she won't be accustomed to separate from him. Therefore, there's a period of time where they have to have a separation. Ad kama, how long is that period of time? Amarav, it means that night after the Yemei Torah, that night, then they have to separate.